Good morning. Thanks for joining us on this Sunday morning. These are challenging times for many of the state's universities. Northern Michigan University is facing some of those same issues. We'll talk about that and more this morning with NMU President Dr. Fritz Erickson. It starts right now.
From TV6, this is The Ryan Report. Now, here's your host, Don Ryan.
Well, Fritz Erickson was named Northern Michigan University's 15th president on July 1st, 2014. Prior to his tenure at NMU, Dr. Erickson served as provost and vice president for academic affairs at Ferris State University in Big Rapids. He also held administrative positions at the University of Wisconsin-Green Bay, Eastern Washington University, and Michigan Tech. Before entering higher education administration, he was a professor at Millersville University of Pennsylvania, and earlier in his career was an elementary and middle school teacher. President Erickson, welcome.
Glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
Are there times you wish you were back at being a middle school teacher?
You know, I think back finally in my days as a middle school teacher, and I don't ever recall working as hard as I did back then. So
Okay, all right. You know, you do have a busy job, but what do you do for fun? I understand golf is one of your passions.
yeah, I do. I have a real passion for golf. I enjoy the outdoors. My wife and I this year bought a camper.
Okay.
And so we're really excited about getting out in our camper and exploring the Upper Peninsula even more. So we try and do as many different things as we can.
Have you had a chance to get out and explore the UP some?
We've explored some,
Yeah.
but it's kind of interesting because, and this has happened to me in other places I've lived, I tend not to visit as much locally. I tend to go other places, and that's
Sure.
why the idea of a camper is so appealing to us.
And of course, travel is a big part of your job for your work, traveling all over the country and all over the world.
It is. I'm a frequent flyer on the 5:18 a.m. flight out
Okay.
of Marquette.
You know, you've had a busy couple of years since coming here. I have to ask you, did you realize when you took this job that it would be quite as challenging as it's turning out to be?
I think yes and no. You know, I knew there would be challenges. The complexity of the challenges is something you don't really understand until you get into the middle of it. And most of the things I deal with tend to be pretty complex.
You know, and the other thing I was thinking about is how do you plan for the future in this world we have today, in this culture, and with the technology, and not just that
Yeah.
we have the technology, but the way it's been adopted by, you know, you see little kids walking around with cell phones and, you know, Twitter and Facebook and all the rest of it. How can we look out 25 years and say it's going to be like this?
Well, I'd be happy to look out 5 years and say it's like this. I think what we do is we really try and be as responsive and flexible as we can be. And we make sure that we're continually building towards a technology infrastructure that will allow us to continue to move forward. We have two great pieces that make up Northern Michigan University. One is living in an environment and working and going to school in an environment like Marquette and the Upper Peninsula is truly an amazing thing. It's truly a wonderful place to live, work, and go to school. The other thing we bring, though, is we are a very technologically advanced university. And we have a lot of initiatives that are on the verge of being announced that will move that technology forward even more.
And Northern's been on the cutting edge for some time, going back to the laptop initiative, I think it was called.
Absolutely. One of the few universities to begin with a laptop initiative. And while some of the luster gets worn off it, we're still very much committed to the laptop initiative because it provides an equal playing field for all of our students, and it saves our students quite a bit of money. When my kids went to college, I think I bought 3 computers for them during their undergraduate years. Here, we give a student a computer, and if it breaks or anything happens, they can just bring it in. We'll get it fixed or replaced or repaired. So it really saves quite a bit.
And while we're on the subject of technology, Northern's now getting into, I'll call it Wi-Fi on steroids. Talk to us about what's happening
that's
there.
a good, I may steal that line from you. What we're referring to this is our Educational Access Initiative. And we believe, you know, one of the challenges of living in rural communities is the digital divide.
Right.
And nowhere is that greater than when it happens and impacts educational opportunities. excuse me. And so what we're looking for is a way to make sure that anybody that's interested in furthering their education, whether it's a K-12 student, whether it's a degree-seeking university student, or whether it's any of us that are lifelong learners want to be engaged, that we have access to the technology that will enable learning to continue.
And basically with this system, people living anywhere in the UP pretty much can connect to NMU, is that right?
Yeah, our goal is really simple, and that is the FCC has given a special license. They've not done this for any other university in the country, to be able to light up, if you will, the Upper Peninsula, but for educational purposes. So we expect everyone who's interested in joining us to enroll with us, to be able to take an educational class like personal finance or health and welfare classes or exercise classes. People will be able to do this and be able to get the internet access at a very, very low cost that makes education accessible.
And just to reemphasize, I think you made the point just now, but this is not just for full-time students, it's for anyone.
No, we really have sort of three major groups of folks. First of all are our own regular students, fully matriculated students who've been doing this for years. And as we build the system out, they'll be able to expand even further. Second group is for the K-12 community. In fact, we've just sent out notifications to all of the students and their families in the Marquette area public schools that they can get access into our system to meet their educational needs. And they'll get a filtered version of what we have if they'd like to sign up. But the third one I think is one of them that's really exciting, and that is for the general public. And the general public, anybody can sign up. What's required is that you agree to take at least one credit or so personal development course on a pass-fail basis. And it can be, the list of topics that we're developing for personal education is growing every day.
Okay. We've got to take a break. We'll pick it up right here when we get back.
Okay.
Back with more on the Ryan Report in just 2 minutes. Again, our guest this morning is Dr. Fritz Erickson, president of Northern Michigan University. Just before we leave the electronic, say it again for me, the ENA.
The Educational Access Initiative.
Okay. You know, you never know what's going to be the one thing that can be a real future bellwether for going forward.
Oh,
this certainly could be one.
Our goal is really to provide access, and what we think this is going to do is provide so many different educational opportunities for people in all walks of life. We're partnering with businesses so they can put their educational materials up and make it accessible to their employees and their customer base. This will be a game changer for the institution.
I mentioned, earlier that you came in very challenging times here. Number one, enrollment continues to have a downward trend. You were down about 400 students this year, probably down over 2,000 students, not just in your tenure, but going back a number of years.
Yeah, we're down almost 2,000 students over the last 7-8 years.
Okay.
And that's almost all a function of the changing demographics that have happened in the Upper Peninsula, throughout Michigan, and the Upper Midwest.
Do we have any idea, are these long-term trends? Is that going to reverse itself as far as the demographics?
Unfortunately, no. As we look out the next 5 years, we'll still continue to see a decline in the number of high school graduates. And interestingly enough, I was talking with someone about this, and they said the way they saw it is that the number of high school football teams that have gone from 11-man football to 8-man football has been extensive. We've seen 12 schools in the Upper Peninsula make that shift recently.
Okay. So that certainly makes a difference.
And so, we're an institution that is really built and dedicated to serving the population of the Upper Peninsula of Michigan and the Upper Midwest.
I read a statistic. It says 1 in 4 Michigan adults 25 or older have some college credits but no degree, and Michigan ranks 28th in the percent of high school grads entering college, but drops to 41st in graduates.
And graduates, yes.
Is this one of the problems?
Yeah,
keeping
this
kids in school?
is one of the problems. I think that we approach the problem from a couple of different perspectives. One is we need to make sure that people coming out of high school who are interested in some form of post-secondary education have that opportunity. One of the great things about Northern is it's not all about getting everyone a four-year college degree. We have wonderful career and technical programs that lead to great jobs in a pretty quick and timely fashion. You know, our alignment program,
right,
for example, is just one representation of that. So I'm not one who believes everybody needs to go to college, but I do believe people need the opportunity for some form of post-secondary. So we need to focus there, and our Northern Promise initiative is really helping with that. But the second piece is we do have a lot of people who have some college, and we want to continue to make it easy and accessible and affordable for people to come back and finish. It's one of the reasons why we're excited about the Education Access Initiative,
okay,
because a lot of folks are place-bound because of their jobs, family issues, and we need to do a better job reaching out into people's homes and communities to make degree completion a realistic objective.
With the demographics you spoke of, you know, in the business world, some might say we have overcapacity. Should we be doing something about that?
Yeah, that's always hard to say because different institutions have different missions. You know, our good friends up at Michigan Tech have a very precise mission in what they do, and they do an extremely good job at it. And we love to partner with them and work together with them in a lot of different ways. The only time we really compete is when we see each other on the football field, right, or the ice rink.
Right.
The mission of Northern is different. I mean, we are a comprehensive institution trying to help people in all walks of life and in many different academic disciplines be able to fulfill their interests, their goals, and their dreams.
Is there any benefit to narrowing that mission as far as?
Well, and we are doing that right now. We have 180 degree programs, and we've been sometimes we're our own worst enemy. We've grown programs over the last 40 years and not done as good a job trimming out programs that are no longer as vibrant and active as they once were. And so we're going through a process of doing a comprehensive review of the programs that are really on sort of the downward slope of their life cycle to see what their future is. And there's no easy way to do this. You have to look at each program individually, sure, in terms of their opportunities and the population we serve.
Okay, we'll get back to some more questions in just a minute. Back with more on the Ryan Report after we take this break. Again, this morning we're talking with NMU President Fritz Erickson. Time is short, but a couple of important issues of finance. Your board agreed to limit its tuition increase to 4.2%.
That's right.
That really works against Northern, doesn't it?
It does. The challenge is that Northern, from a financial operations standpoint, we're the second lowest tuition in the state. And we're actually quite proud of that and believe that we should do everything we can to remain affordable. The challenge is when the state puts a percentage-based tuition cap in place, in terms of real dollars, that means something different to every institution. So for every dollar we go up in tuition, our friends at Michigan State will go up $1.50. Yeah, and so over the last 8 years, that's created this growing gap between schools that are funded from their tuition at a very low level and institutions that are funded at a much higher level.
So, you know, I think there are a lot of people in Lansing who recognize the problem.
Yeah.
But there's also some belief on the part of many that they're not going to do anything to change it. What do you think?
Well, I'm actually optimistic. I was in Lansing again last week. I spent a lot of time down there, and I think people really do understand this issue. The challenging point is, how do you directly address it in a fair and equitable way and still hold to the ideals that we need to do everything we can to keep cost of college as affordable as possible.
And you know, I don't have the statistics, they're somewhere in this file, but it's something like Michigan just does not rank well with the way it supports education.
No, we've been in we're kind of a bottom tier state when it comes to public support of higher education, and it's a calculation it doesn't happen all at once. It's happened over many years, a continual decline. To give you some example, when I graduated from college in 1980, the Michigan funded about 70 to 75% of the cost of my education. And then myself and my family paid 25–30%. Sure. That's exactly the opposite today, where what we now have done is put 75% of the burden on families and 25% on states.
So it's not that Michigan's education rates are higher, it's just who's paying them. That's
well, it does become an issue of who's paying.
Right. You have some, you're trying to do things to make the campus more attractive, bring more students. You have some building projects going on that are pretty interesting. Yeah,
we're putting up a whole series of new dorms. And the interesting thing with the residence halls that we were building, first of all, they'll be spectacular. And second, they're focused on really creating the appropriate kind of living, learning community that our students really benefit from. But third is this was the most affordable way to handle renovations of dorms. Okay. If we would have taken money and renovated 50-plus-year-old dorms and had a nice coat of paint, new doors, and so forth on those same doors, the cost to our students just to do those pieces would have risen our residence hall rates by 30 or more percent. Okay. Here we're being able to do it for a cost of between right around 6 to 7%.
Okay, and you wind up with a nicer facility to start
with. And you wind up with a brand new 50-year facility, because no matter how you renovate old dorms, they're still old dorms.
Are there still some other building projects on the agenda?
Yeah, we're very interested in our next project, and that is the University Center. Okay. We anticipate putting on a new ballroom on it and renovating the facilities, because we're a facility that is not only used by the campus community, but by our broader community. Right. And we need this in the community. And we've found a very affordable way that will not impact tuition, just like the residence halls. Our goal is not to have any of those projects impact our tuition or the dollars we spend on instruction.
We're just about out of time. In fact, we are out of time, but I did want to mention you went through a long strategic planning process.
We did.
And if people interested, it's available on your website.
It is available on our website, and it is reflective of a lot of really exciting initiatives, and is reflective of the tremendous quality of education that our students get. That personal touch is something that really defines who we are at Northern.
And of course, the hope is it will bring more students to Northern.
Well, we expect that to happen.
Reverse these trends. Okay, thanks very much for joining us this morning.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Back with some other thoughts on the Ryan Report after we take a break. It's the start of a new TV season, which means some of your favorite TV shows will be returning for another year. But some that you may be looking for just won't be around this year. They're not coming back. I've said before that I'm a fan of the TV situation comedy. That goes back to Andy Griffith and Barney Fife and Dick Van Dyke, Mary Tyler Moore, Seinfeld, and a whole lot more. I love those shows and the characters who appeared in them. They became like old friends who came into my living room once a week. With the TV comedies, especially those that stick around for a long time, we get to know these people better than we know some of the people we interact with every day. For the long-running shows that reach their end, the storylines often come to a logical conclusion. And although we'll miss them, we're ready to see them ride off into the TV sunset. Oftentimes, they'll give us a great final episode to tie up the loose ends, complete those storylines we've been following, and let the characters go off and live the rest of their lives without us looking over their shoulders. At this point, you're probably thinking, I'm getting a little carried away here. After all, these are just characters in a TV show. Maybe so, but watching them every week, sometimes for years, makes them about as real as the life that goes on around us. But here's the purpose of today's message. The stories don't all come to a neat ending. There are some that leave after a year or even a few years without bringing the storylines to a final conclusion. Sometimes they even leave us with cliffhangers in the season final episode. We expected them back, but the network executives have a different idea. For example, that happy bunch of misfits that hung around a bar in Detroit on a show called Undateable on NBC won't be coming back. Will Justin and Candace get married? Do Leslie and Rick ever really get together? And does Danny ever find love? We'll never know. We'll also be saying goodbye to two of my favorite shows on our sister Fox UP station. So we'll never know if John Stamos gets back together with his former wife on Grandfathered. That show ended with a definite cliffhanger, which means those people thought they'd be coming back. And I'm going to miss Rob Lowe, Fred Savage, and the rest of the cast from The Grinder. It was just a fun show. Other shows disappearing this year include Telenovela and Crowded here on NBC. The last one with Patrick Warburton and Stacy Keach, we hardly got to know them. But you know, like life itself, it moves on. There will be some new shows and characters to take their place. We'll get attached to them, and then the network will pull the plug again. And so the moral of the story is, don't get too attached to characters on TV. As lovable as they can be, they will only be here for a little while. But I'll be back in 2 minutes. Well, it's time for us to say goodbye for another week. The Today Show is about ready to roll. This is a good time to remind you that the place to go for the latest news, sports, and weather at any time is UpperMichiganSource.com. You can also find current and past episodes of The Ryan Report at that same address. Thanks to Fritz Erickson for joining us this morning. It's a challenging time for state universities, but as he reported, NMU has plans to meet today's challenges, and so thanks for joining us. I'll look forward to seeing you again next Sunday morning.